Welcome to Der Hair for Kids. Join us as we explore the fascinating lives of our Rebbe. Would you like to hear yourself on Der Hair for Kids? Just record yourself saying the intro, the outro, or answering a question about the previous episode. Send it to us, and your recording will be featured on the next episode of Der Hair for Kids. For more information and to know which wording to say, visit derhair.org/submissions. We hope you enjoy the episode. In the previous episode, we discussed the birth and upshernish of Shneir Zalman, who would later become known as the Alter Rebbe. In this episode, we will discuss his childhood. When Shneir Zalman was still a very young boy, he knew much more than children twice his age. Actually, he knew much more than many Talmidei Chachamim knew. Shneir Zalman would spend all his time learning Torah. He felt that the gates of Torah were wide open for him because he understood everything that he learned right away. He never had a question in his learning since everything was clear to him. And if Shneir Zalman did ever have a question, no one else could answer it, because Shneir Zalman would ask the kind of questions that can only be answered by Eliyahu Hanavi himself, who will answer all of the toughest questions when Mashiach comes. May it happen right away. I'm sure that many of you wish that you could learn Torah in such a way. To understand everything right away? Not to ever have a question? That's like a dream. But you'll be surprised to hear that this actually made Shneir Zalman very sad. Why would it make him sad, you ask? Something bothered Shneir Zalman. There's a mitzvah to work hard to understand Torah. Since I understand everything right away, I never get a chance to do this special mitzvah. Why am I different from everyone else? Why is everyone else able to work hard to understand Torah while I can't? Can you imagine such a challenge? Only years later would Shneir Zalman finally find out why Hashem had created him this way. We will hear what he found out in an upcoming episode. Shneir Zalman was very careful to keep an organized schedule, and he used to wake up every morning at dawn. As a small child, Shneir Zalman studied under different melamdim, teachers, in his hometown of Baruchovich. But it soon became clear that Shneir Zalman had already learned everything that his teachers could teach him. So, his father, Reb Baruch, took little Shneir Zalman to the nearby town of Lubavitch to the Gaon Reb Yosef. Reb Yosef was a great Talmid Chacham with a very deep understanding of Torah. Reb Yosef spent his whole day learning and would even hold a midnight class in Gemara every night. What made Reb Yosef unique is that he would always rush to finish his nightly Gemara class. But where could Reb Yosef possibly be rushing to in the middle of the night? Every night, at 2 o'clock in the morning, a group of simple working men, such as Reb Yitzchak the peddler, Reb Shloime the tailor, and Reb Avram the blacksmith, would gather together in shul and say the entire Tehillim before the sun came up. When they were ready to begin, one of the older people in the group would go up to the stender and with a voice full of tears would begin reciting Tehillim out loud. Ashrei ha'ish, asher lo yholach b'atzas rishoyim, uvederech hatoyim lo yomod, uvemoishav leitzim lo yoshav. While the rest of the group would each stand in his place and recite the entire Tehillim with hot tears streaming down their faces. Every night, Reb Yosef, the great Talmid Chacham, would rush to finish his nightly Gemara Shiur so that he could go and join the simple people in saying Tehillim. That's how important their Tehillim was to him. He treated all of the simple Yidden with tremendous respect. Reb Yosef was also very knowledgeable in Gemara, Chakira, and Kabbalah, and really enjoyed explaining different concepts mentioned in these Sefarim. We will soon hear that Rabbi Yosef wasn't Shneir Zalman's main teacher, but even so, spending time around Rabbi Yosef and hearing his explanations in Kabbalah gave Shneir Zalman the ability to begin understanding Kabbalah in depth. Rabbi Yosef asked his son-in-law, the Goin Rabbi Yisachar ber Kabilniker, to be Shneir Zalman's teacher. What Shneir Zalman did not know is that both Rabbi Yosef and his personal teacher Rabbi Yisachar ber were really Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Yisachar ber had actually received specific instructions from the Baal Shem Tov regarding what he should teach Shneir Zalman. And the Baal Shem Tov had also warned him not to tell Shneir Zalman anything about the Baal Shem Tov. Young Shneir Zalman gained a lot from Rabbi Yisachar ber's knowledge of Torah. Often, Rabbi Yisachar ber would tell Shneir Zalman, "I will soon be making a trip to do Golus. This means I will spend time traveling from place to place while pretending to be a simple beggar and eating and sleeping very little as a way of doing teshuvah. Since I won't be able to learn with you while I am away, I will take you back to your home on my way to Golus. I am going to give you a learning schedule. Follow it carefully every day without fail until I return to take you back to Lubavitch. That's when we will continue our studies together." The concept of taking Golus upon oneself was something that was done by many Talmidei Chachamim in those days, but Chassidus does not advise to do so. So why was Rabbi Yisachar ber going into Golus? Well, the truth is that Rabbi Yisachar ber was really traveling to the Baal Shem Tov in Mezhbush. But since the Baal Shem Tov had warned Rabbi Yisachar ber that Shneir Zalman must not hear about the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisachar ber couldn't bring Shneir Zalman with him or even tell him where he was going. Rabbi Yisachar ber gave Shneir Zalman a learning schedule which included different parts of Torah like Gemara, Medrash, Chakira, and Kabbalah. The people of Baruchovich who watched how Shneir Zalman conducted himself while at home were amazed.
"Look how seriously young Shneir Zalman takes his learning schedule."
"Yeah, I heard that for him, every minute is like an hour."
"Yeah, and I treat every hour like it was just a minute."
"Well, if you start treating your time like Shneir Zalman does, maybe you'll get somewhere in life."
After Rabbi Yisachar ber came back to Lubavitch, he continued to teach Shneir Zalman until the boy turned 11 years old. At that point, Rabbi Yisachar ber brought Shneir Zalman back to his father Reb Baruch and said, "Your son is so wise and has learned so much that I have nothing more to teach him, so I am bringing him back to you." During that time, Shneir Zalman was often seen standing in the marketplace and giving a speech to the large group of people who gathered there. "My dear brothers, fellow Yidden, please take my advice. Leave your businesses, move out of town, and begin to work the land, farming and planting. If anyone might need farmland on which to work, please let me know." Shneir Zalman helped many Yidden settle on land that belonged to his father Reb Baruch, and in this way, many Yidden were able to find a calmer and more effective way to make a living. What's interesting about this story is that this was also one of the first projects that the Baal Shem Tov had begun as a young man. And here, young Shneir Zalman was working on it as well without knowing anything about the Baal Shem Tov. But soon, dark days fell upon the small village of Baruchovich. There lived an evil witch named Akim. In those days, there were no sinks or showers. Everyone had to rely on the water in the wellspring at the edge of town to use for all their needs, from drinking to washing and everything in between. The vicious Akim thought to himself, "I hate the people of this town. I want to hurt them, to embitter their lives. What can I do?
Aha! I know. I will use my powers of sorcery, of witchcraft, to curse the only wellspring in Borochovich. The moment anyone will drink even a tiny bit of this water, they will regret it.
As soon as the evil Akim cursed the wellspring, the waters turned black. Any animals that drank from the cursed waters mysteriously became sick, and some even died. The shepherds who bathed in the waters became sick as well. Many of the Yidden's sheep and cattle died, and some of Rebaruch's own animals died as well. The townspeople were terror-stricken. What are we going to do?
I don't know. This is a terrible plague.
Are there any other sources of water in this town?
There are no other well springs. We have no choice but to bring up water from the well.
From the well? That's so much more difficult. My animals aren't used to drinking from buckets. They want to drink from a wellspring.
Well, tell them to get used to it.
I don't find that funny.
Life for the Yidden of Borochovich became overwhelmingly difficult because of the vicious Akim. One day, Shneir Zalman and his younger brother Yehuda Leib were spending time in a field that belonged to their father Rebaruch. A non-Jewish maid picked an apple from a tree growing in the field and handed it to little Yehuda Leib.
Yehuda Leib, look at this apple. It's so yummy, and you are so skinny. You need to be strong. Have an apple, Yehuda Leib.
Oh, thank you. Baruch atah, Bayrei Priya Eitz. It's so sweet and juicy. But which bracha choina am I supposed to say after eating this? Ala Eitz? And maybe Bayer Nefashais? I know. I'll ask Shneir Zalman. I'm sure he can tell me. Shneir Zalman, which bracha choina should I say on the apple? Well, on an apple, Wait a second. What apple? Which apple? Where did you get an apple from? Oh, the maid gave me an apple from one of the tall trees growing in this field. It was really delicious. What? An apple from these trees? But Yehuda Leib, we're not allowed to eat these apples. Why not? What's the problem? Because these trees are only 4 years old. The Torah tells us that in the first 3 years of a tree's life, we aren't allowed to eat its fruit at all. And in the 4th year, its fruit can only be eaten in Yerushalayim. We cannot eat from these trees. Oh, Shneir Zalman, I did such a terrible thing. What should I do now? Shneir Zalman said, Yehuda Leib, you must do tshuva and make a promise that you will never eat anything again before making sure that it's kosher and that you are allowed to eat it according to the Torah. Secondly, you must go to the mikveh to purify yourself from eating something not kosher. I would also like to go to the mikveh, since the mikveh can help someone who is tamei to become pure, and for someone who is already tahar to get an even higher level of kedusha. That's a great idea, but where do you plan on going to the mikveh? The only wellspring in this town has been poisoned. Shneir Zalman replied, Let me tell you something. I have a feeling that there is water under this mountain, and that if we dig deep enough, we will find it. As soon as the water comes gushing out from the hole that we dig and falls into the pit below the mountain, we will have a pool of natural water to use as a mikveh. So the two boys started digging into the side of the mountain. Before long, just as Shneir Zalman had predicted, water burst forth from the hole and streamed downward. In no time, the pit below the mountain filled up, and their very own little mikveh was ready for use. A short time later, there was a commotion in town.
Zanvil, did you hear? There's a new wellspring in town.
Oh, sure. And I bet the water's polka dot too, right?
No, I'm serious. There's a new wellspring in town. Come see it.
All right, I'll go see if there is an it. Whoa! Dank dem Oibishten. We'll finally have what to drink again. Tell me, how did this happen?
Well, it turns out that the wisdom of little Schneur Zalman saved our entire town. People are beginning to call it the White Wellspring, or der Weiße Qual, because there's a white stone at the opening of the wellspring.
Wow, what a bright little boy. If Schneur Zalman is this clever as a child, I can't imagine how he will be when he grows up.
Maybe a little bit wiser?
Oi, sollst du sein gesund.
What would happen to Schneur Zalman after he got a bit older? Where would he learn? Who would he marry? To find out, please stay tuned for the next episode of Der Hair for Kids. Thank you for listening to Der Hair for Kids, where we explore the fascinating lives of our Rabbeim.